Today's vignette is going to serve as a very high-level overview to XERA. Now, while we will touch on some of those basic core functions in through the system, we really are going to focus on those differentiators, those things that truly stand out and are a little different amongst review platforms. In this day and age, it seems like review platforms, generally speaking, have all of those sort of core expected components. Everybody has a way to organize the documents and display them, typically through some sort of a list or a grid view. Everybody has a way to go about working with folders or organizational panels and tagging and coding panels, native file viewers, their own flavor or spin on searching components and how you can get access to your data, as well as working with analytics. You know, it isn't like 2006 when native file viewers were just kind of making their way into the system and into the tools we were using. Those basic components are all there. Everybody, of course, puts their own little spin on some of these things, but today we're going to focus on those things that truly do differentiate XERA, that take those to the next step, as it were, to really stand out and add some enhanced functionality that we just aren't used to seeing inside the system. Right off the bat, we see this initially at the login screen. XERA is the only platform that's entirely designed top to bottom HTML5. Why is that important? It really does mean you have true multi-browser support. You're no longer tied to IE. If you prefer working Chrome, Firefox, Safari, those browsers are all supported. All you simply need to do is open it up, put in your URL, jump into your XERA site. Unlike some tools that, of course, will talk about having this, but really they're allowing you to use your browser to remote into another server and then to launch into IE just to make the system work. So again, multi-browser support, as well as the ability for any of you that work in international matters to actually alter the hard-coded buttons into a whole series of different languages. You happen to be one of our UK-based partners. I know they've reported to me they do a lot of work coming out of Russia. Russian paralegals speak horrendous English, apparently, I'm told. So being able to alter the interface into a number of different languages is always a key factor. As I log into the system, of course, we're going to see a very simple, clean layout. You'll notice that throughout the entire system here. As I come in, I see my main dashboard with my projects and my messages and notifications. We're going to delve into this a little bit more as we go throughout the system. Essentially a way to bring the notion of collaboration right to the forefront, whether or not we're setting aside and creating messages or tasks for users, notifications when productions or batches have been assigned. The key here is, of course, being able to highlight off important text on documents, and we'll do all of that in real time as we walk through. But this is also where we see the unique navigation model with left to right train car swiping. You're going to notice as we walk through this today, XERA itself is only 4 screens. The database itself is 2 screens deep. That's it. We wanted to entirely get away from the notion of a million different windows jumping up on screen for you. So everything moves left to right as we go throughout the system. Because I'm on a PC, I'm going to be using the arrow keys, where I actually, on a tablet, finger swiping would work. That goes along with the multi-browser support, full tablet access. If I'm coming in off of an iPad, then guess what? I'm coming in via Safari. As I grab my project, it takes me into my project dashboard. And you'll notice here at the top, I happen to have my little breadcrumbs. Again, left to right swiping. I simply move in, I move back. Left to right, nice and easy. My project dashboard's very unique to XERA. This is a place where I can come in here and find any of my tasks, and I can expand these out, add these to Outlook, etc. If I was involved in a batch-based review as a batch-based reviewer, I can access my batches directly off of here, grab anything that's unassigned, check these in, check these out, work with my comments, work with other project team members, and send off communications and messages to any of them if necessary. In the event that you are working with one of our transcript integrations, I could, for example, access my Opus 2 Magnum transcripts directly from here, as well as working with some of the IView report functionality. Again, we'll take a little bit of a closer look at that as we walk through the system, but when I happen to have important visualization reports, whether or not we're talking about user metrics or just database data that's important to me, I can pin that to my dashboard for easy access, as well as the ability to essentially shortcut and jump to various categories or tags of documents in the system. If I know I'm going to be doing a lot of QC work on some of the issue documents, well, I can grab those directly here from my dashboard. I'm going to simply swipe on in to the database proper. Once again, a very familiar structure set up in place here, a typical grid or list view. A couple of things, of course, fully customizable field naming structure. We can set aside any number of views or templates that we would like to on this. Down the left-hand side of my screen, I happen to have my folders and the different panels involved with that to go about organizing or coding some of the documents if I like to work out of a list view and I can check off multiple documents and mass add them in, etc. One thing that's very different about XERA that really jumps right out is the fact that I can do a number of different things from this. As opposed to just looking at my documents in that list view scenario, I can also take a thumbnail view of this, which essentially gives me a preview of all the documents. I'm going to jump here. I know I've got a page here, a few more colorful graphics sitting in place. The nice thing is this essentially displays the natives or the images associated with my documents up front in that typical table view or list view scenario. Best of all, it does not matter if you are working with only images in your database or natives. And if you happen to have a hybrid database, as you'll see I have in place here, it does not matter. It doesn't make any difference to us whatsoever. You can see here, for example, I've got this document ACL 199, which happens to be an image versus a native document sitting next to it versus my next one versus my next one. The thumbnail view is great when it comes time to getting very quick insight into certain documents if you're looking for a key visual trigger on that material, as well as when you're coming back into QC, you're looking through documents and trying to pull something out, as in an attorney steps forward and says, hey, I remember I was looking for this document, had a blue cover on it, I don't remember the name of it though, could you go and find it for me? As opposed to literally opening up a folder and doing next through your viewer trying to find what this is. You can very quickly and easily find it from here. As well, with this, any of your documents that are in fact marked up, your redactions will come through as well. So again, lots of flexibility. And it ties in directly with all of the functionality you expect in your list view. If there are a couple of documents that I want to come in and take a closer look at, I can essentially multi-select. You'll notice if I was to actually flip this back over into my table view, these are all tied in exactly, and I could then simply swipe on over and look at that subset of data, or I could drag those over and drop them into a particular folder, and you'll notice here my little icon is identical to my add to folder icon, letting me know I've got 3 documents sitting in place here. So again, all of that functionality you would expect from your table view carries over into the visualization in my thumbnail view, making use, of course, of drag and drop functionality to go with it. Now, this takes me to an area when we start talking a little bit about searching. One of my clients has mentioned to me that one of their clients, it's a hosting partner of mine, says one of the things their users really like about XERA is the fact that they can search without it feeling like searching. Now, everybody has some sort of way to go about searching and finding documents. A lot of flexibility inside of XERA are fairly unique. Obviously, we can come in and make use of things like field level filters. You can come over and make use of quick search data. You can come in and use the custom search to build an advanced search and really roll up your sleeves and build big complex Boolean search strings through a simple wizard. So again, it doesn't feel like it's a burden or a barrier or there's any real learning curve for your users. But it's the various ways we allow you to have quick insight into the data in your database that really jumps out, by adding in with that things like facets. Faceted search is something that's very familiar in the commercial web space. We happen to have a standalone video that goes a little bit more in depth into this, but it's a whole notion of a series of categories, panels here looking at some of the metadata fields where I can simply come in and go, I want to see this one, this one, this one, this one, go. And much like hitting Amazon, putting a few checks down the left side of the screen, you can filter through 2 million products and bring up the Kenmore dishwasher and stainless steel for under $400 that you're looking for. Same idea in place here. Things like custodial fields, date fields, record type fields, etc. work extremely well by simply adding or removing your various checks and filtering through the database. It layers extremely well with all of the other searching I'm looking to come in and do in that system as well. Once again, another standalone video we have to go a little bit more in depth deals with the notion of using our IView visualization to take a look at my data as well as user metrics. Once again, the ability to come in and search for material in my database without it feeling like I'm building big Boolean search strings, etc. With IView, we can come in, display fields by, or display reports by field or folder data, as well as my review data, my metrics. So I can come in here and take a closer look at the inside of my data. I'm going to build a column graph very quickly here where I'm going to bounce off my record types against my custodians. And I'm going to simply say go. Generates up iView for me where I can see my various record type legend down the side here. These are my various custodians across the bottom. Account across here. If there's something I want to come and take a closer look at, I simply highlight and it allows me to zoom right in. And I can see here on Dr. Calvert's home PC, we've got 4 Excel files. We happen to have 11 email in there. And let's say I decided I actually want to go and see those. All I simply need to do is click, and we'll notice at the top of the screen it begins to add these as filters for my data. So a visual way to say, hey, that information looks like it might be important, let me see it. And as opposed to coming in and typing in my custodial names and record types and all of those things, I simply need to click and it allows me to filter. I can of course layer and work with facets on that if I so wish. It becomes a tremendously useful tool for me. If I decide on the fly, that type of report doesn't really help me so much, I'm going to come in, I want to see this as a stacked column graph. I'm able to come in and do so as well. I can see here, for example, very quickly, hey, 15% of all of Dr. Calvert's material are Excel files. I want to take a look at those. It looks like it might be important to me. Or I may decide to come in and take a look at this in some sort of a timeline scenario. Zero in to a particular time frame. Broken down by year, broken down by month, and then of course broken down by days. We can see here everything shot up right over those 2 days in place here. And again, I can say, all right, if that looks like an important timeline, I can grab that and very quickly it allows me to filter on that. For anybody who's struggled through proper date searching, you understand where the value of that absolutely comes from. So again, very easy way to once again search or find your data without it feeling like searching. Once again, take a look over the iView video that goes much more in depth on that material right there. From this scenario, I'm going to simply swipe on over and look at this in my document view. Once again, everybody has some type of a native file viewer, image viewer, etc. Few things that we like to do in place here to simplify everything I need to do. It's an introduction of something we call word marking. I'm going to jump to another document here where I know I've got some more material inside. We can see we have a number of terms that are pre-highlighted in place here. The whole notion of persistent hits, whether or not I've run search terms that are highlighted on both my natives as well as the text view of my document. So even if you aren't dealing with natives, you can still draw attention to those key terms of importance. You'll notice here, lots of flexibility. Users can turn these on or off. They can turn on or off individual components as well, both in the native as well as in the text view of that data. Down the right-hand side, we happen to have our coding panel. Obviously, everybody has some way to go about working with coding. Few things that really do jump out inside of XERA though on my panel. Easy mixture of your radio buttons, your checkboxes, but it's the ability to also put in what we call edit control boxes and to nestle them wherever you need to inside of your list. Obviously, we start talking about coding rules, the ability to streamline your review. When a user checks off a document in a certain folder, it automatically moves it into and gives it another designation. Very, very easy to set up. Just so everyone knows, an administrator or a project manager can literally set up a coding rule inside of 2 minutes. There is no complex scripting that's involved in this, so being able to effectively do these on the fly, very easy. However, you can combine those with edit controls to really take that notion of proper QC, of ensuring workflow parameters are followed really the way they're supposed to the next level. Here's a great example. In a number of my plaintiff review projects I've been involved with in the past, I often see a similar workflow scenario whereby, in spite of all the designations they may have for tagging, they'll always have something like a hot designation. If a user flags something as hot, they must provide a rationale for it, something like an attorney notes field, etc. In most of that's hard to do. You really have to be on your users to ensure that if they're flagging a document as a hot document, for example, that they're putting their rationale in it. Quite often they tag it, they move on. Becomes a big burden when it comes to QC time, because then you spend all your time going through all these documents that have been designated a certain way and don't have the follow-up information required. You can effectively force that on your users to help ensure that workflow is being followed properly with an edit control or a navigation rule. For example, in this database, I happen to have a rule on my confidential folder. Document gets flagged as that. If I try to move off somewhere else by clicking on a tab, by flipping over, navigating to a different document, you'll see it will not let me leave this document. Even if I try to jump through various documents in my list, it will not let me leave unless I enter a value in these fields. By way of demonstration purposes, we've set up some of the different options, whether or not you want to work with pick list coding, whether or not you want to work with editable fields like an attorney notes field, date fields, etc. And if there's a value that's already in there, I'm required to actually confirm it or edit that. But it will not let me leave without filling that information in. Once again, tremendously beneficial when it comes to ensuring the proper workflow steps are followed. I can't move on in my batch unless I take care of that information right there. Another big key differentiator is you'll notice there is no save button located at the top. You do not need to do this. Whether or not we talk about things like keyboard shortcuts, auto-saving on redactions, or, more importantly, auto-saving on all the tags and designations I make. As soon as I check into the folder, or check off a tag, or enter information into an edit control, that is written back to the database. As a user, I do not have to then spend my time navigating to the top of the screen and manually clicking save on any of this stuff, because while it may not be a big deal for a handful of documents, when you're spending all day pounding through a batch of data, any time you can save is valuable time. I talked a little bit at the beginning about the notion of collaboration, really bringing that to the forefront. And this is where that really jumps out at us on the comments panel here as I'm in a database. While we can use this for our internal messaging, tasks, and notifications, etc., it really stands out when we start talking about finding important information on a document, being able to flag it, quickly find it, and link other users to it. So my comments panel, kind of like a Facebook wall posting page, for example. A document here that says key for the Jones Depot from this particular user. I can click this one here from Alex Lewis, and it jumps me right to, in this case, page 4 of the document. It highlights off the paragraph that he found was important. Works extremely easy. If I want to add one of these, I literally just highlight, come in to say new, say key for Jones Depot. I'm going to notify myself in this case so we can see how all this works. I can send this as an external email. A user doesn't have to actually be logged into the system to work with this. They'll receive these notifications. Now, because I'm actually already in the system, I will get my notification coming up. There we go, nice and quick. Just like getting a text message on my phone. You'll remember this from our login screen. Key for the Jones Depot on this particular document. I can say to myself, all right, what is this user? What's Mike trying to notify me of? View document reference. And it bypasses everything we've done so far. Takes me right to the document, jumping me right to the page it's on and highlighting it off for me here. So again, a lot of flexibility, a lot of time saving in the notion of communicating important information out to other members of your team. Find something that gives you a moment to pause in your batch. You need somebody's verification on something, you need somebody's feedback, literally highlight, pin a comment, send it as an external email if necessary. They get that notification in near real time. We saw how quickly that worked here. They can get back to you and you can progress on via your batch nice and easy. And then of course, everyone wants to talk a little bit about analytics and how that works inside the system. You'll find here we introduce a related tab. Interestingly enough, while this notion of related documents is starting to make its way into the system, one thing that we found when we first rolled this out a little over a year and a half ago now, I guess, was the simple fact that a lot of users tend to struggle with the way analytics had been embedded into the tools they were using. It didn't really seem to fit as well with what it was they were doing. They didn't fit the same way into the same interface. It was new windows that opened up, things of that nature. And we really wanted to simplify it. And when you think about it, we're really trying to say, hey, just bring me all the documents that are related to this. So maybe imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but I'm seeing that notion, using that language coming through a little bit more and more now in other platforms. But the idea, of course, is user comes through, they find a document that catches their attention, and they say, hey, this is important to me. Let me see everything that's related to that. Via email threads, via near dupes, for example, the list of all the near duplicates, same field content, or similar concepts, whereby it gives us a nice, easy sliding scale here of similarity scores that I can come in and work with. Now, a couple of things that are very unique in here. With XERA, we do have a strong partnership with Content Analyst and have embedded that inside. You can use analytics directly through XERA using CA to do your threads, your near dupes, your similar concepts, etc. And that also powers our unique exemplar feature, the custom find similar virtual documents that we can create inside the system. Obviously, another standalone video on that to take a closer look at. However, we've recently ran a webinar for our existing clients showing what's about to roll out in the next few weeks. I'll say that now. Hopefully you'll see the timestamp on this video and it'll be done before we know it. But the next release of XERA introduces custom related panels, giving you the ability to create these threads, near dupes, similar concepts, or clusters, etc. from whatever third-party tools you're already using. For example, if you happen to be working with IView, you're in a IView shop, you want to use IView threads or near dupes, well, these can be powered by those. Maybe you happen to be using BrainSpace, maybe you happen to be using Nuix, or any other number of tools. You can create your own custom related panels in place here, and you could have BrainSpace clusters and have that listed over, and it works the exact same way to keep a consistency throughout, but giving you the flexibility to truly use those best of breed projects and literally tie them in directly into XERA. So it gives a tremendous amount of flexibility into your workflow. With those, obviously, check off the documents that catch my attention. I can apply my bulk coding. I can go and take a closer look at it. I can come in here and power then XERA's unique doc compare feature to compare IView near dupes, for example, just like we have in place here. Like I'm doing with CA, where I happen to have my static core document and the comparison documents with the differences being highlighted for me, being able to come in, take a look at specifically what those differences are, sort them out so I can jump in and see exactly what it is I need to see between these documents and apply my coding appropriately. Being able to use that unique dot compare with any one of those tools and not being tied to just the embedded engine in here, once again, provides the best of both worlds in our mind. Now, hopefully, this brief high-level overview has served to demonstrate how XERA delivers a more efficient way to manage everyday litigation tasks with an easy-to-use, easy-to-learn interface that applies aspects of the familiar, frequently used technologies in today's marketplace, all from XERA, the platform that works the way you think.